Dolly friends. I'm so happy that you're here today because as you can see, poor little Winnie finally got off her shift down in the infirmary and was going to have a nice soak. But of course, Gertrude is there again with some milk and cookies, which she pilfered from the kitchen. They were brought over by a very kind neighbor who also dropped off a cat for Gertrude. And Gertrude is letting the kitty in the tub and hoping to soak herself with her cookies, which she knows is strictly not allowed. And poor little Winnie is just waiting her turn. So I will have to deal with them in a moment, but Jenny has gone down to the infirmary and it was just in time because one of the children happened to poke his eye with a guitar string that snapped. So all he needs is a little ice pack and he'll be fine. But when I went up to the nursery to bring the little guy down here, Charlotte, who of course you know has been staying in the nursery and is most unhappy about it, she told me in no uncertain terms that she needed to get out of the nursery as soon as possible and she did not belong there. So lucky for her, I was visited by a muse. And I do want to show you some of the things that the kindly neighbor sent over, the milk and cookies and a medical bag for the dolls and many, many other handmade beautiful items, which I want to share with you, including this beautiful crib. With the urgency expressed by Charlotte, there was something else that I had to take care of, and I'm going to show you what that is today.
I really am so happy that you're all here because I was so excited to show you this project. And it's a long video because I ended up showing you my whole process. I hope you don't mind and I hope you'll stay till the end. It all started when I found these things on the ground and a muse came to me and whispered of what I might use them for.
And I have these estate sale finds from last week's video. And so I want to show you what I've been working on. So I have this box and it all folds up. I took it all apart, of course, before I decided to show you, but it folds up to this 3x5" approximately size. And I thought I would make a house for Charlotte, which I can continue to fold up. And this is kind of what I had in mind. And I thought I would go ahead and start making a brick floor. I don't know why I decided on bricks. I think because I just thought it would be kind of a rustic place, you know, being that it folds up into a box. And, you know, I know she's a little picky, but, you know, she likes old. So I'm just using a little stylus that I have to create some lines and go over the lines that I already made. I measured them to be about, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch. And I'm just creating some bricks and I'm kind of poking into the cardboard as I go along and trying to create some areas so it looks like the bricks are worn. I don't want it to look too new. And that's what I have. And this is kind of what I was doing here, just kind of going over the lines, the horizontal lines that I made and adding the vertical lines to indicate the bricks. And I'm just doing it all by eye and feel. And I decided to cut some windows into the side panels. And I really didn't think too much about it. And I just cut these large open areas. So I'm going to have to figure something out to make some kind of panes for the windows because I don't like that, just a bare open area, and I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. So the way the muse seems to be working is that I'm just moving forward. I'm looking at my my items here and having a very general idea and just moving forward. And as I'm doing things, the muse is telling me how I can make it better or what I might change. Now, unfortunately, she must have gone on a break because she didn't stop me from doing my dot move, which is to, I want to go ahead and fold up these sides and glue them to the back where the wall will be. But really, I should have left it open just to make the designing easier, the painting and the wallpapering. I'm going to paint everything gray on the inside just as a base color, and the same thing with the bricks, but I'm doing more of a dry brushing so that I can layer the look of the bricks. Now, the cardboard itself is a color that you sometimes see bricks. In fact, in my old house, the fireplace, it's not very big, but it's actually that color, that kind of beige color, natural color. But I want my bricks to be red, and I want them to have a little bit of a gray background. And this is that gray color that I've been using. I really like this color. So I'm just doing a really dry brush. And you'll notice with me that it takes a really long time because I'm very hesitant and unsure because I haven't really done this too much. So when I say dry brush, I mean really dry. Now I want to use this nice big floral wallpaper that I got at the estate sale, and I'm just kind of trying to see which portion I want to use. And I wanted to use a portion that had some of these hydrangea along with the roses. So I cut it into 3 pieces, just vaguely measuring. I probably could have done a better job on that. And I'm go ahead and gluing it in. So here I am again back at the bricks, and I'm going over now with some red. And what I've done, I don't have my palette in the frame here, but I have different colors. I have a brick red, I have like a fire engine red, I have a brown, and I have that, what was that color called? I'll put it here, that cinnamon type color that I use for the wall in the dormitory in the nursery. I can't remember what the color is. I'll put it across the screen here. And I'm just kind of blending them together. And then I went back over it with a very, very dry brush with some white, just very little bit. And I'm liking the way that it's turning out. I do end up going back in some areas with some black because I just felt like it didn't have enough depth. And I think some old bricks are often reclaimed from other things, and often you'll see black in it. And moving right along with my muse, I'm painting the window frames brown. And I'm not thinking too much about it. I don't want to overthink it. Now, this is a piece of tile that I found while I was walking, and I feel like it's old. There's just something about it that I feel like it's old, but I think I would like to use it for a fireplace. And I'm debating whether to file down some of it so it's not angled. I do like the angular look, but then it will be hard to put anything on it. So I'm toying with that. Now this little black railing piece here, I also found that on the ground and it broke into several pieces. And I think it's going to make a good stovetop for my oven here. And I also have some bark and a piece of wood that are found, and I'm trying to decide which I'd like to use for the mantle. And then you can see at the bottom there, I've cut some of the copper of those little labels I got at the estate sale, and I'm going to use that as a little screen for the fireplace. I just love the old dolls' houses that have those old English style fireplaces. I don't really see those too much in the United States, but I really like the way they look in a doll's house. So Charlotte, of course, being what she calls a true Victorian, will want to have that. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to age it up with some black paint and maybe some green paint and some pastels to kind of age that a little bit. And I'm just playing around right now, trying to decide if I want to add some other elements. I have this little frame and these little beads that I could use as a table. I'm not sure. I didn't really find those pieces, but the muse directed me to this bag of fairy lights that I had, and I wondered if I might be able to use them in the house. And what I did was I poked some holes there and I turned it on, and I got a whole bag of these very inexpensively. I think I got like 20 or 30 in the bag, and I just cut it. I just cut the wire and so I only have 2 lights and don't have to deal with all the other lights, and it still works because it's connected to the battery pack. And then I'll find something to create shades over that. Now, not thinking, and this was the muse, this wasn't all me. I'm not going to be able to close the box all the way, so I'm going to have to cut it a little bit. I'm just kind of looking at the bricks, seeing where I'm going to cut it. All right, moving right along, I'm going to make some frames for the window, and I'm just going to use coffee stir sticks, and I'm just playing with some stain here and trying to decide how I want to do those. So do I want to do it from the outside, or do I want a lighter color stain? Well, the lighter color doesn't look good at all. So I've kind of cut and measured these just with my, eyeball measuring, and then figured I could slide them in here with some glue and make a little frame. And that's exactly what I did, and that's just what I wanted. And I'll probably do some curtains over that. I think that would look cute. And I haven't really thought about, except for one element of what I'm going to do with the outside. That will probably be another video. After much trial and error with my beads and baubles, I decided that what I really like is just these 2 beads placed directly over the lights. It creates this cool little star-shaped shadow, which I'll show you. Now, if you look also at the ceiling, which appears to be the floor in this frame here, I just used some brown pen to create some molding at the top of the wall. And also on the wallpaper, I used diluted white paint to age the paper a little bit. And one of you told me that wonderful hint. I think it was you, Becky. If it wasn't, I apologize. But yeah, so this is the ceiling that you're looking at, but I want to let them dry that way. So I did file the tile here, and this is how I've aged the grating or screen or whatever it's called. And I'm happy with the way that turned out. And I've decided I'm going to use the wood for the mantle. The bark didn't seem quite right to me. Maybe I can use it for something else. So I took a black Sharpie and created a black background, and then I just used tissue paper and decoupage to create a little fire in there. And now this piece of wood, we're doing some construction on our old house in the backyard. I had an old structure, a garage, and this piece came from that. So I'm delighted to be able to use it for something. It is very old and kind of falling apart, but it actually sanded well and didn't really crumble. So it's not rotted, it's just old. And I'm going to glue that right on here just using tacky glue. Now, I love when my muse takes over for me, because it just so happened that while I was walking, I found this piece, which fits perfectly as a cover for my oven. Now, I've cleaned it all up, so some of the areas you see there, like on the right, they're just like calcified. And then it just so happens that this little piece, which is also metal, fits perfectly right across the area that I want to use. Now, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to attach it, but I don't know. I think it's going to be perfect. I'll figure something out to make it work. Maybe I'll use a hinge. Ah, not a hinge. Yeah, I'm gonna try it. I read online that Gorilla Super Glue Gel is a good glue to use for metal to metal. And it's true. It worked. It just went right on. It takes about 20 seconds of waiting, and then you can start working with it. And it does open and close. I'll have to figure something out for the right-hand side. And then if I use that for a stovetop, and then I'm going to remember these little pieces that I found at the estate sale that had the little prongs on them. Well, one of our dolly friends named Shannon told me that they're called nails. They're called nails. And she knows that because her mother used to craft and use them a lot for fabric. She told me how to use them. You poke them into fabric and then close the prongs on the opposite side. But I thought I would use one of them to create a fire for my oven, or a heating element, and I'm just coloring it with some red Sharpie. This one had a gem already in it. Some of the nails did not have that, but this one did, and it was just clear. I didn't have any this size that had color to them. I had some smaller ones that had color, but not this size, which just so happens to be the perfect size for my little oven. And I'll show you what I'm thinking here. Just wanted to open them out a little bit so that it didn't fall through. It's just a little bit small, but I think it'll work fine with this. And watch. Ta-da! Heating element. And I did find a little piece of mirrored cardboard that I put on the bottom to create a bottom for the oven, but I didn't show that. And I'll just kind of trim this little piece here. And I'll get it all in order. So it's kind of an interesting kind of plastic. I don't even know how to describe it. It cuts really nicely. It cut very precisely. So I don't know what that little piece was from. And then I remembered this, and I thought I would use these little cutouts, these little punches, to go inside my burners to create the look as if the heat is on or that they're hot. Now this one, I had actually colored it previously thinking I would use that alone as a burner. So I'm just gonna, I'm just trying it out to see if I like the way it works. And I do. Don't you think the way those prongs turn over like that, it looks just like a burner on your stovetop? Yeah, so I'm gonna just glue those on there. And I'm using my Aleene's Ultimate Glue, the one I pulled all the goo off. Yeah, I'm liking it. Now I haven't glued the plastic piece on there yet. I'm thinking I might want to add another burner on top, just a small one, where Charlotte can just keep her tea kettle so it kind of stays hot. And you can see in that the left area there, I was trying some black Rub and Buff to see if I like the way that looked. And boy, do I. It looks just like cast iron when I paint it over this metal. So this is just the back of the oven. You won't really notice it, but I just wanted to make sure I liked the way it looked. And I do really like the way it looked. Of course, if I had thought it through, I would have painted it first before gluing the burner on, but I didn't. And then the little area with the numbers in the middle, that just stayed like that. It didn't take the Rub and Buff. So yeah, and I did the inside, and I did add a little piece on the bottom. I haven't done that yet. And I went ahead and went over a little bit of the plastic with the Rub and Buff and on the burners themselves, just to add a little more authenticity. And I'm going to make a pool for the front of the oven where Charlotte can hang her towels. And I just used a piece of metal that I had, just a piece of scrap metal. I think it was copper, and I put black Rub and Buff on it. So while that's all drying up, I thought I would move along to the curtains. And my friend Deb just showed this on her channel. It's not actually hot while I'm showing you, but I'm just showing you. I just used my straightener. My clover iron died about 3 months after I bought it. And I didn't want to take out my iron. So what a great idea, Deb. I never would have thought of that. And because of how lazy I am, I love just having my curling iron out. So this lace you've seen before. I got this at an estate sale a while ago. And I'm adding a little piece of silk ribbon to create a casing in the back. Now, it just so happens that the estate sale where I bought that ribbon and some other Doll's House stuff was about a year ago, and they're repeating the estate sale this weekend. So I don't know if they're going to have new stuff or what, but I'll be going, and if I find anything, I'll be sure to share it. While the glue was drying for the curtains, I created some dish towels and dish rags by cutting some old fabrics that I had and dipping them in a glue solution and forming them and letting them dry, and I'm liking the way they're coming out. I also decided to get to work on a chair or settee, and I have this bark, which I actually cut. This is just tree bark I found. I put some toothpicks there, and I just don't even know how to go about this. Put some cotton on the top and decided to glue some silk ribbon there, and then maybe wrap this little piece around the edge. And then I don't know how I'm going to do the back or make it so it can stand up. But while I'm thinking about that, the curtains were ready. So all I did was stain some toothpicks and kind of taper the ends so that they would fit in these little silver beads that I had, or bead caps. I don't even know. I just call them beads, that I thought would make cute little ends of the rail. And I think these curtains are perfect, but they also need to go in the glue solution so that I can form them. They're not sticking out so much, but they're going to go there. I'm probably just going to glue them right to the cardboard. I don't really want to fuss with making hooks or anything like that. So back to the oven. I've glued the railing on, and I'm putting one of my little dishcloths here. And I really like the way it looks. What do you think? I think that's just about everything. So I'm going to put it all together. Here sleeps the sometimes whiny Miss Charlotte, who feels that living at Whistleby House is beneath her, now has a cozy domicile of her own. A self-described true Victorian, she will certainly not mind the absence of certain so-called modern conveniences. Well, it's very early in the morning now, and I thought I would stop over at the cottage. Looks like she's making her cuppa. Seems to me like she's very comfortable there. Do you think she'll be able to sit in the settee and not fall over? Here's one last look at the cottage. Added a little more lace, like a little valance on top of the curtains. And I put some plants that were gifted to me. And Charlotte has the oven open, so I'm wondering what she might have in there. She insisted on a tennille print because, like I mentioned before, she's a true Victorian. And here's how the settee turned out. I had to put some beads on it to raise it up. And yes, I may need to redo that. It's just not quite, yeah. It was really hard. I didn't really know how to do that. Well, I hope you enjoyed that and insight as to my process. And if you want to see the gifts from my friend, come back and visit me next time in the doll cupboard.